The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production.
You are like the collector, Kev, that has something very special in their garage, but they never put the key in the ignition and start it up. You've got an XT5, but it hasn't even made its way out of the box. What are you doing?
Oh, no, it's out of the box. The box is out, but the camera, I've never switched. I'm going to switch it on now for the very first time.
Have you charged it? Has it got a charged battery in it?
Well, I've got loads of batteries. It might not be charged, actually. Hang on. But put the battery in first. You're right. I turned it on. It didn't come on. I was like, hang on, what's going on? It's broke. Right, there we go. No memory card. No, of course. Set the date. There you go, it's on.
That was a riveting start to the show.
The FujiCast.
I think when McKinnon does his unboxings and turning his machines on, it kind of
that's what all these people who have 5 minutes with a press launch and then manage to do an hour and a half review on YouTube. How they manage that, I don't know.
Well, they read the reviews, don't they? And then regurgitate the information that Mullins already wrote down.
Well, I didn't because I haven't had it, so I refused to do a review, and then I got attacked. But so there you go. Here's my review. It works.
Is that it?
That's it.
Haven't made a picture on it yet. In the old days, by now there would have been a film out. It probably would have featured all of your family, which it always does. Yeah. Of course, I forgot. Yeah, it is the family that usually make the first image, because that first image you make on a camera is really important, isn't it, for you personally?
Generally is, yeah. On the cameras that I'm super excited by, and I am kind of excited by this, so maybe, yeah, I'll take it home, maybe, or maybe I won't, and... There we go. I'll put it down now.
Oh dear, how the reviews have fallen. Anyway, welcome to the FujiCast, the fortnightly show. I nearly went for bi-monthly then, Kev. I realised that would take a fuse out your system. Where we answer your questions about Fujifilm cameras and any other form of camera or photography, because you don't have to just be shooting that flavour. If you want to send a question in, the way you do it is by email to click@fujicast.co.uk, or you can send it in via the Facebook page, can't you, Kev?
Or you can become a patron, and then you get bumped to the front.
Which is a very nice way to link to a bump to the front now, isn't it? Have you got one?
It is indeed, yeah. Well, first of all, I'll just say thank you to the latest patrons. We have Lars Hegaard, Jamie D. Hegaard.
Yeah, Hegaard the Dane.
I guess he was Danish.
No, he is. I know him.
Okay, the next one, you've got to guess the country of all of the next ones, right?
Well, that's not fair. I just knew Hegaard the Dane, that's all.
Well, no, Jamie D. That's what his name is, Jamie D. Where do you think he's from?
Jamie D. Jamie's a very British name, isn't it?
I don't know the answer to this, by the way. We don't get this information. John Grazty.
Definitely Polish.
Yeah, thank you. So thanks, Lars. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, John. And Zishan Khan.
Oh, I know he's from America.
Doesn't he live in Switzerland?
No. He moved to Boston. If you want his life story, and then from Boston he went to New York.
Okay,
I think I'm doing okay at this game. Actually,
you're not doing too bad. Yeah, I don't. You seem to know everybody on the entire planet. That's brilliant. Yeah. Next one is C. Cody Anderson.
Nah, I don't know, but it sounds very American.
It does sound American, doesn't it? Yeah. Does sound American.
Good, strong name.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, C. Cody, Zishan, John, Jamie, and Lars for supporting us. Fantastic. Very kind of you. Helps us a lot. And we do have a bump to the front, which is one of your privileges, along with the patron pop-up show on a Monday, every other Monday, from John Bradstey, in fact.
Yeah.
John says, great show. I've been listening off and on for a while. Oh, I see now, John. I would prefer it if you said on and off rather than off and on. That does not work well with my brain. So I'm just gonna
rewind.
I'm just gonna rewind it a bit. Yeah, from John. Hi, great show. I've been listening on and off for a while, but I have a bit more recently as my freelancing gigs in web design, IT, and digital marketing are now needing a bit more of my photography hobby. So it's been at the forefront of my mind. So my question for the show is, what do you, now this will give us a clue where he's from. What do y'all use for grain when you're processing raw files?
Definitely from America now.
Yeah, I'd say so. Southern American. Processing raw files for more filmic look. I know in some older YouTube videos, Kevin mentioned alien skin exposure, which is now called exposure X7 or 8 or whatever it's up to now, rather than the grain effect in Lightroom. What about now? Thanks and keep up the good work.
Well, I just use the standard grain within Lightroom. Is that not the right thing to do? Are there much better grainifiers on there? It always seems to work. I don't terrifically grain up my pictures anyway, really.
Yeah, I tend to use Lightroom now also, and that's partly, there's multiple reasons for this. Lightroom has moved on a lot since I used to use Alien Skin. I still use Alien Skin occasionally, mostly for the personal stuff. But yeah, I mean, I like presets and whatever, whichever presets you have, wherever they're from, more than likely will have some kind of grain element built into it. So with the Fujifilm stuff, what I normally do is I look at the selection of images from a job, and usually quite rare there will be any at 12,800, but usually, especially this time of the year, there'll be a few at 6,400. And what I actually do then is I just don't do any noise reduction.
What was that you don't do?
Noise reduction.
Sorry,
don't pick on me.
I interrupted you, but it was just the reduction bit.
I can't say anything.
Reduction?
Lightroom generally, and it's very subjective, isn't it? We've talked about this before, how it makes me chuckle that, I've got here an XT5 on my desk, which was £1,600 or whatever, picked up last Thursday. And I know that we'll edit these images. We'll all do it. We'll all edit them to try and make them look like they were taken on cameras in the 1970s, give them that very filmic look, which always makes me chuckle a little bit. Yeah. Whether that manifests itself by adding grain or preset or, whatever, it does just.
I see less and less grain in pictures being imported into pictures. I see less and less of it, Kev.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've set up a new Instagram channel just for my personal black and white stuff, which is nice because I can edit those as I so wish.
Yeah,
and I am actually editing them quite filmically.
Are you?
If that's a word. Yeah, right. Quite black and whitely.
Right.
Grain.
Black and whitely. Right. Okay.
Moody, miserable black and whites with lots of white spots on them for grain.
Oh dear! Does it say something about your impending feeling of the day?
Yeah, it does a little bit.
We're doomed. We're doomed.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, John, the true answer is whatever works. I mean, you will probably, if you dig deep enough into Photoshop, be able to get more natural looking grain. Like you can use overlays or you can use samples, but I think it's probably a little bit overkill. Depends what you're trying to achieve ultimately. And you know what the purists will say, if you really want grain, natural grain, shoot film.
But then, with all the processing that comes with it. So
yeah, of course. Yeah.
What's your new Instagram handle?
Mullins_monochrome.
Mullins_monochrome. Or monochrome, not monochrome.
Monochrome with an E on the end.
Yeah. Let's have a quick look. Monochrome. There he is. Wonderful. Look at that. Oh, I love that picture. You took that one on your recent trip to Japan, didn't you? The
latest one that's on there.
Is that? Yeah, that's one of those fantastic street, small street booths, isn't it? Kiosks.
Yeah, although that's from 2013, but it was in Tokyo. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, it's not the most.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it says 2013. Read the instructions. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. What? So this is brand new because there's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 19 pictures on there as I count today. 20.
Yeah. It's about a month old, something like that.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, there we go.
Yeah. Bit of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a nice idea, actually. I mean, I have a few Instagram profiles, some stuff for personal projects, my silly projects that I do as well. And it's quite nice to be able to. How many profiles can you have these days? Didn't it used to be about 5?
Oh, I don't know. Technically, I've got 3. I used to have Mullins on the street as well, but I don't know where that's gone.
Oh,
that did have quite a few followers as well, but I stopped posting to it, and I think in the end they just deleted it. I don't know. I don't know.
I didn't think they were. Oh, okay.
I might be able to log on to it. I can't remember the password though.
That's no good then. Right, Tony Blake. Hi, Neil, Kev. Although this is probably for Neil. Sorry, Kev. It is, he says it is.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
That's becoming one of my least favourite phrases, by the way.
Sorry, I'll stop saying it then. Sorry. I didn't realise I was upsetting you.
No, you're not upsetting me. But I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with it when somebody says, well, it is what it is. And I think, well, what am I supposed to do with that information?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it is what it is, isn't it?
It's true. Tony Blake here from glorious Dorset. Oh, it is, isn't it? As you know, Kev, I'm much too important and rarely email. Oh, do you know him? Do you know Tony?
No comment.
How do you know Tony Blake?
Oh, I thought you said Tony Blair.
No, not Tony Blair. Tony, clear him out, Mullins. Clear the lug holes out. Tony Blake.
I'm not sure. Do I know him? Might do.
It sounds
Tony
like
Blake.
you do. I have
Sounds
the
like I do.
dubious honour of... he had the dubious honour... No, he did, because he came to the one of the conferences in Bath. A
Yes.
while back
Yes.
now, actually.
Yeah.
And I had the dubious honour of meeting and chatting with Neil in the loo at the X conference in Bath.
There we go.
And surviving that, I thoroughly enjoyed the rest of the day, though. I'm not quite sure what he means by though. Of course we know Tony Blake. That is famous people you've met in the loo, Kev. Have you ever met a famous person in the loo and have had that moment, as chaps might, at the wall where you think, what do I do? What do I say?
Yeah, I had a wee next to Tom Russell.
Did
you? He was telling me about how Johnny Cash covered one of his songs, and him and Johnny Cash were in a room together, and Johnny Cash didn't know who Tom Russell was, but he was covering one of his songs.
Oh, there we go.
I was upstairs in a pub in Twickenham.
And you had that entire conversation.
The Tub. It was the Tub pub. Yeah, I mean, it was a Tom Russell concert. So,
Right.
but it was a tiny one. There was 23 people in the audience. It was the most wonderful experience.
Wow.
And I went for a wee. He went for a wee, and we got chatting as you do, holding on to things.
When I say famous people you've met in the loo, that wasn't suggesting that Tony met a famous person, i.e. standing next to me. I meant properly.
Oh yeah. You've elevated yourself. To a
No,
famous
not
toilet
at all.
person.
Not at all. Properly famous people. I met Stuart Pearce in the loo.
Did he headbutt you?
No, he didn't. It was in a pub. Went for a meal. It was in a pub, and he went to the loo. He came in after me. He stood, and I thought, I didn't say a word to him, but I knew it was Stuart Pearce. And I was like, all right. But what do you say? I thought, what should my opening gambit be? Probably not something about penalties.
No, probably not. I don't think I'd say anything to Stuart Pearce.
Wouldn't you?
No, he's terrifying.
He did. He looked very terrifying.
Yeah. Did you just look at his eyes? Which is obviously what you only ever do in the toilet.
Well, no, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be looking up in the air, really. Eye contact is not really invited, is it? Really?
Is he really as big as you think?
It's a tall lad.
In real life?
And then Joe Busink. I stood next to Joe Busink in Bristol. I think we both went to that thing, didn't we?
Yeah. No, it's a good job I didn't come in behind you, because I wouldn't have known who's who.
But we did have a conversation. Oh, dear. Anyway, no question, he says. Oh, after all this, there's no question. He just wanted to, he said, I was just listening to the recent FujiCast, Kev's interview with the power people at Fuji. What an insightful interview. I can't believe they've... I don't know if you want me to read that next bit, Kev. No, I won't read that next bit. Let me
You can read it. What is it? You can read it.
I can't believe they defrocked you, Kev.
Defrocked me. Well, Tokyo didn't defrock me.
No.
Fujifilm UK did. But as we've talked about many times, I fully understand their decision, and we are still bestest of friends.
Yeah, I feel a bit uncomfortable with thinking about you defrocked. And this one's for Neil. You may have already heard this, but just in case you didn't, knowing how much you love the buttons and the voiceover captions for the show, I couldn't help hearing a great opportunity to copy a clip from Kev's interview. 40 minutes and 6 seconds into the podcast, the Fujifilm man actually used the expression, "we will consider."
Okay, so whichever question I was asking him at that point, you know the answer is no.
Yeah. Best wishes to you and your families for Christmas. Tony Humbug Blake.
I like Tony.
I like Tony as well.
Yeah.
What's not to like?
Yeah.
Right, that wasn't really a question, but I did take up valuable Mullins time. So you do a question next. Have you got one?
Okay, yeah, we got quite a few on Facebook at the moment, which is great. And time-honored tradition, I will start with the most recent one, which is Jeremy Baker, who I saw last week, and he's on very good form.
Yeah.
Which menu is the option to not see the exposure through the EVF, e.g. when shooting with a flash, please? I use it so infrequently that I can't remember it.
Oh, do you mean when shooting a studio environment thing?
Yeah.
Do you know, I can never remember the name of that thing, but I use it.
I was going to leave you to answer that one.
No, it's on a button now.
I know that you know the answer.
I know, but I do, but I don't, because it's on a button, so I can press it so I don't have to think about it. It's in the screen settings, and it's called Preview Exp, isn't it?
/WB in manual mode.
That's the one.
Preview exp./WB in manual mode.
Mine's on a button.
Well, mine's not. I never use it, but yes, there it is. Very useful. And do you know how that menu option came about? I can tell you a little interesting story about this.
Go on then.
So originally it wasn't on there. And people obviously started using flash with mirrorless cameras.
And of course you can't see, can you? No.
Because it's mirrorless, you can't see.
No.
Yeah, it's not an optical viewfinder. So when the XT1 came out, it wasn't an issue with the X Pro one because you had an optical viewfinder. With the XT1, people were like, hang on a sec, this is great, but I can't see. It's dark.
No.
It was actually Zach Arias who initially... I remember kind of having a kind of conversation about it, and he put this little video together, shared it privately with Fujifilm, and said, "This is the problem." And they went, yes. And they never said, "We shall consider." What they actually said is, "We will fix."
We will fix.
Yep. So you've got Zach Arias to thank for that little thing.
I think sooner or later down the line, it would have to have been fixed, wouldn't it? Because otherwise, you'd have had a camera that can't be used in a studio environment. Because if you're using sort of a standard studio setup, which seems to be 100 ISO f8, 1/2 of a second, and you're practically in the dark with a modelling lamp, there's no way of locking on.
I think they realised straight away, and it was, I think it was pretty much rolled out in an immediate firmware update.
Yeah. Oh, another interesting fact that I learned for you this morning, Kev, has nothing to do with photography, but I did hear it on the Zoe Ball breakfast show. Cue the jingle. Do you know how many? She has some experts that speak on the. It's a midweek thing. Do you know how bad it is to blow the candles out on your cake?
Well, in terms of germs, yeah, really bad. I would imagine probably about 9.
Okay, it ups the bacteria rate by 1,400%.
Yeah,
if you blow out all the candles, especially
if you're kids. When they're kids and or people from Merthyr Tydfil, they just spit everywhere. It's just awful, isn't it? I remember when COVID was going on and we were just about allowed to move around. I went back to Wales for my birthday, and it was that period where we were allowed out for a bit. And my mum did a birthday cake for me, but I remember pulling my jumper out. I had put my mask on, put my jumper up over my face, and then blew it out. And then still nobody had any. It's not easy to blow a cake out through a mask and a jumper and a woolly jumper.
No, it's not. Our friends, we got a friend of Jack's, young lad. I won't embarrass him. Not that he's going to be listening, but I won't say his name. But he when he blows the candles out, it's sort of like that. Just you see it in the air. It's horrible. I've never eaten cake after he's blown out the candles. Do you want some cake?
It is an odd thing, isn't it?
Not for me, though, because I'll just have a bit more celery. Tim Binder sent in something. Neil, Kev, my question. SCM dial on the front of the Fujifilm cameras. Does it stand for Canon, Sony and Minolta? I think he's suggesting, can he select one of their... No, just kidding. Love the show, mates. Keeps me inspired to shoot. So not really. I don't really have a lot of questions this week.
SCM dial on some Fujifilm cameras. Let's get this straight. It's not on all of them. It's not on the XH2s.
No.
Much to my annoyance. But there you go. Yes. No, it doesn't.
No. I have got a question, though. Eric N. I heard you talking about syncing time using the Fujifilm app and Bluetooth. I tried this with the X-T3, but found that the set time, was neither accurate nor matched the time on the phone. Right, okay.
What?
I heard you talking about syncing time on the Fujifilm app and Bluetooth.
Yeah, I remember us talking about that last week. 2 weeks ago.
In fact, didn't you give just remind us what you said on that one?
So the question was how do you sync the times on between cameras, and I said I just use the app and switch the cameras on, sync to the app, and the app syncs it to the phone time.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing what he's saying is it's never accurate with his phone.
Right. Yeah.
Is it an Apple phone? I'm just putting that out there. Just putting that out there.
No.
Mine always seems to work. But in actual truth, in total honesty, I have never synced the camera time and then compared it to the phone. All I do is make sure that they're both the same. So if they are out, then I wouldn't necessarily notice, but all of the images will be in sync because they will, if they are out, they'll both be out by the same amount. But yeah, no, that's not something I've ever come across or I've ever heard anybody say either.
He said, since I use the timestamp to geotag my photos, being off by a few seconds can be a problem. What I do is take the photo of an accurate clock, such as the time on my GPS device, used to record the track logs, and then I use that photo to check what to adjust the time to in Lightroom. I do this for every camera I bring, which is usually no more than 2. This also works for cameras without time sync support in the app.
Yeah, that's what I used to do also. Yeah. I used to take a photograph of my phone, the clock on my phone with the seconds showing, and then just sync it in Lightroom. Well, actually, I would do it in Photo Mechanic, but no, I don't know. I don't know why that's not working for you. I would. The only possible thing I can think of is perhaps there is something else that you have connected. Maybe it doesn't sound like he is, but maybe he's using one of the kind of GPS memory cards that you can get with built-in GPS for location stuff. Don't really need those anymore. Maybe there's another app that's, I don't know. Maybe there's, I don't know. I can't. No, don't know. Pass.
He did ask if we were that concerned about the cameras having the same time and a few seconds travel each direction. Is it a big deal? For me, it's not. No, as
long as they're both the same, I don't care. They could be 12 years out for all I care, but as long as they're both the same, because that's relevant for the clients.
If there are a few seconds out in your sorting, to me that doesn't make a lot of difference. No.
No. I don't want the cameras to be. The cameras need to be the same second by second, because otherwise, when you're shooting with 2 cameras. And you've got one picture of the bride arriving at the end of the aisle with, using the 56mm, and then you take another one with the 18mm, and then the next 56mm is with her at the front of the aisle, but the 18mm is one with her at the end of the aisle, because they travel quickly, these brides these days.
I would say, how quickly are you changing your cameras to the aisle?
I like to get, like on an average church kind of walk down the aisle, I don't know, how long are those, 25 feet maybe? I like to get 2 shots with the 56 and 2 shots with the 18. Yeah. At least. Right. So, and brides these days, they're a lot fitter than they used to be. They move a lot quicker.
Too quick for Mullins.
It's all these health shows on the telly that they're watching.
Right, do we have time for another QQ? Yeah, we've got time for a Q. Have you got a QQ from FB?
Yeah. Mike Wooten says, question, would it be hard for Fujifilm to update firmware so that you can set up, for example, one X-T3, swap card to another X-T3 and copy the settings? I find it frustrating that this simple task cannot be done on Fujifilms. My Nikons used to do this. Thanks. Now, this is a very interesting point and a very good question, because this is something that I've been requesting for a very, very long time. Yeah. When I used to shoot with Canon, you used to be able to save a settings file, pop that into the other camera and say, update the settings. And so it would, your kind of, all of the settings that you had in one camera would be the same on the second camera. Now, you can do this using the X-Acquire software. I think it's the X-Acquire software, or is it X Studio? No, it's X-Acquire. So you can do it at your desktop. You can, if you've got 2 cameras, you can use the X-Acquire software to plug them in and basically sync all of the settings in the cameras. You can't do that sat in your car. And I'm told the reason for this is because it wouldn't work across camera strands. So, for example, a lot of people have an X-T3 and an X-T4.
Right.
And the settings are different. The firmware is different. So it would present too many problems. That's what I'm told. And I remember when I used to do it in my Canon world, I could never do a 5D, whatever. I think I had a 5D Mark II and a 1D Mark IV or something, or the other way around. I can't remember. But you couldn't do it that way. You could only do 2 5D Mark Is or 2 5D Mark IIs. And it was a little bit confusing. So that's ultimately, that's the reason why. I do agree with you, Mike. It would be really, really lovely if you could do it. And, of course, a lot of people do have 2 of the same cameras. But the fact is they have mitigated it by giving you software to do it, and you only need to do it once, don't you? You don't, let's face it, if you're out on a job and you change your shadow settings, for example, it's going to be quicker for you to just turn on the other camera and change the shadow settings there, rather than download the settings file, move the memory card across, upload the settings file, introduce all the risks that are introduced with that. So you can do it via software at your desktop, and then if you make substantial changes at another time, then you can do it again there.
We should mention our sponsors at this point, pick-time.com. And actually, this is a good time to suggest that you use one of the features that they have, which I'm sure you're using, Kev, is the holiday discounts.
Yeah. So a holiday kind of management system they have in place at the moment with the ability to automate kind of your Christmas, Black Friday, what do they have in America right now this week? Thanksgiving, all of that stuff. They've built in automations, so it's very, very, very extremely powerful. Yeah. And I was speaking to one of the staff from PickTime a few months ago, and they were saying that their photographers, those who just run the automations for holiday periods last year, so I don't know about this year, but last year, the sales increased by literally millions across all of the users. So you do need to be clever, and you do need to use the integrations wisely at the right time of the year, and now is the right time of the year, it seems, for that.
So if you're wanting to show your work online, I would imagine it's predominantly professional photographers that use this service, and you want to do it creatively and artistically and fiscally well, it would seem, then go to pick-time.com. And if you enter what code, Kev, you could get a month's free, couldn't you?
Yeah, month free. FujiCast is your friend. FujiCast is the code. Just FujiCast. Don't ignore the friend thing. FujiCast. Yeah. Capital. FujiCast in capitals. That's it. Yeah. Just FujiCast. No quotes, nothing, no spaces. Starts with F, ends in T. Ignore everything else I said around that. FujiCast.
So we don't have an interview this week, but we do have a factory tour. So the interview will return in the next show, and I have a guest who at that stage will have been out at the World Cup. He might still just be there, but we'll get to that in the next show. But this time we're on a factory tour, Kev.
We are.
They treated you well, didn't they?
They did indeed. We got the bullet train up to Sendai, and then we got a bus for an hour, and then we went into the badlands of mid Japan, and we had a little wander around the factory. Very pleasant it was too. So, Andreas, you and I were fortunate enough. Unfortunately, Neil couldn't make it because he had some weddings to shoot, but fortunate enough to go to Tokyo a few weeks back. Feels like months ago now, but it was just a few weeks ago. And one of the things we did was we went up to Sendai, which is the factory where some of the lenses and the cameras are made, Fujifilm factory there. And we met the engineers, and they were gracious enough to take us around the actual factory, the lens production line and the GFX 100S production line. They obviously have other facilities there, but they really did embrace the fact that the listeners, the FujiCast listeners, will want to get an idea of what it's like at the factory and the real people. And we got to see that. Our eyes are your ears, so to speak.
Yeah.
What was your overall impression of that? So it was your first tour, I think, wasn't it, at that factory?
It's the first time I've been to the Taiwa factory, and there were so many things that struck me. Obviously, the hospitality of the Japanese people is second to none. We need to remember that these people haven't seen anybody outside of Fujifilm local employees in 2.5 years because of the pandemic, and they were so welcoming. And we've got a lovely picture of it was Mr. Kevin Mullins' day, wasn't it, in the factory? So their hospitality and their generosity, of course. The thing that struck me was how little automation there was in the entire factory. It felt like every element of every product was touched by hand and then checked by hand, verified by some sort of computer jig. And then if that wasn't enough, 2 or 3 steps down the line, it was aligned and rechecked and checked again. And then once it got to the boxing stage, not the actual fighting boxing, but the camera or the lens being put in the box, they were randomly checked again.
Yeah.
And from I got an amazing sense of pride walking around the factory as to how much pride they put into the products.
So after the factory tour, Andreas and I got to sit with Mr. Kazuri Anzai, who is the general manager of the factory and oversees all of the factory elements, production tools, management, and production of the cameras and Q&A. And the very first question I asked him was, how different is it now to how it was when the first original Finepix X100 was made?
まずは、ラインナップが圧倒的に増えているので、ここ10年でラインナップが増えているということで、はい、
So now 10 years ago, we still have a Finepix, the compact, and then we start X series, X100, X1, and lenses, and in 10 years we expand a lot, the X series. Compared to 10 years ago, the most different thing is the quality assurance. So the clean, about cleanness, we didn't need such high level as you've seen over there. The 10 years ago, no camera or no lens required that level. But after X series, once we expand the system, the more and more that we are getting severe.
And you must feel very proud about all of the work that has come through this factory.
本当に10年ファンの方がいて、でいろんな評価いただいてここまでライン。
So in these 10 years, they really feel the system is expanded, the production line getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and lineup expanded. So that expansion is thanks to user. So 10 years, a lot of supporter or fan of Fujifilm, supported us. So that's why we could expand the system. So they really feel the appreciation to the user and listeners. Okay. So that's why they could expand the factory line.
And then I asked what his message was to photographers, and also we discussed briefly about the entire role of everybody at the factory, from the individual people who unpack the parts to the lens manufacturers, the OIS testers, the software engineers, to the people that package up the box, put them on the containers and send them out.
で今日ケミさんに見ていただいたように、私たちのレンズっていうのはものすごいたくさんの部品をこう組み上げていくっていうプロセスを今日見ていただいたと思います。
As you see in the factory line, so we have lots of parts, components into just one lens. Then today you saw a 150 to 600, but don't forget the factory produce all other lens lineup as well, not only just one lens.
構造として特にまず作業者がそれぞれ
So as factory, they want to be confident of their production. So that's why every day or every product, they keep giving the training or education to the factory staff.
まず、ポリシーとして持ってやってるところですね。
So that they train the factory worker, as he mentioned, and not only that, Omori-san, even after the mass production, he check the process and they keep improving. So as factory, train people, they're improving the facilities, automation machine as you've seen. So they are doing every day what they can do. So that's a policy. So that's what they want to tell the people. They are confident about quality.
Confident and always improving.
Yeah, always improving every day.
Good.
なのでこう自信を持ったものを作っているので。
So all the product they produce, they are really confident of the product. So final finishing. So they want the people to feel the product experience. So maybe they if photographer or users try new lens, they will be super happy because everything, all the product they are proud of.
Yes.
So they want to share their pride with everyone.
And what's most difficult to produce, cameras or lenses?
どちらかというと部品が多いのはカメラだよね。
So for cameras, the number of components, the camera has more components.
Okay.
So which means the production process will be longer. So in that sense, camera is difficult. But lens, the quality check inspection, as you've seen, we have a lot. And then some inspection cannot be done easily. It's analog check, it's optics, so which means physics.
Yeah.
So physics means we cannot have any cheat. So
Yes.
we have we have to make sure. So in that sense, the quality we have to keep the higher standard. So lens is difficult in that sense.
The next question I asked was, at what point do the engineers and the physical manufacturers get involved with the design? So, for example, Masa-san may design a XH2, XT5, whatever. And at what point do the engineers get involved?
デザインレビューっていう設計がデザインをして、スペックを決めて
So they will be involved in design review. So which means before production, actual production. So R&D engineers propose the design, and then they review and then check the feasibility from factory point of view, then feedback and adjust. So then once we agree, then we making the prototypes, so actual production. So which means they will be involved in very early stage of the development.
The next question is, how does the design and engineer transfer itself to other factories? So, for example, factories in China or Thailand or whatever else they may be. Is the process identical, and how much is the involvement from the engineers in Japan with the other factories in the other parts of the world?
じゃあ、ここにあるように、台湾の位置づけとしては、
The role of Taiwan factory is like a mother factory, or like a someone who make a direction, like a director
Okay.
among our factory branches.
Okay. Fine.
で、
The first step, as we mentioned, Taiwan factory, the staff will be involved in early stage of development, so they can, develop the process of manufacturing together with our R&D engineers.
Right.
That's the first step.
Yeah.
あと、対話では全ての
Second step, so after design review, so they will produce like a prototype, pilot production. So all the products, so camera and lens, no exception, they make a prototype at first. Then they can review actual production in the touch and feel. Then their original design idea is good or bad. They can review and then feedback. So that kind of process, so prototype production, they will do all product.
Yeah.
Before China or Philippines or wherever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then they will design the production process. So which means, as you've seen that today, lens group 1, 2, 3, or component ABC, which order to be produced,
Okay.
and then how to allocate the layout. Right. Or then later you saw the inspection a lot. So which means they are in charge. They have to guarantee the product quality. So what kind of inspection will be needed, or what kind of process needed, and then they design, and then make an order of production, and then make a kind of manual, or then so manualize
Yes.
before final production.
Okay.
検査をするためのソフトウェア、それも全て台湾のチームが。
なるほど。So still, he have not finished yet. So
Okay.
So after designing the production process, the fourth step, Taiwan staff make a jig, or the machine for inspection or everything, as you see,
Yes.
that they produce
Yeah.
in Japan.
Yeah.
So still, we haven't talked about overseas factory. Everything still in Taiwan.
I think the point that Mr. Kazuro Anzai was trying to get across here at this point is that everything starts its life in the factory in Sendai, all of the jigs, all of the engineering, all of the templates, and they are then sent and educated with the factory staff in the other locations. And so it really does not matter where the items are produced, the quality is identical.
So now he explained everything designed in Japan and exported. So China just mass production only in China, right? Then even after mass production started, sometimes problem happen, and then problem in China, Japan, or Philippines, all the issue will be shared with him.
Yeah.
So Doi-san, he's in charge of quality assurance. Then they will check all the issue and then make the countermeasure or some solution, and then share that kind of information with everybody.
Okay.
So the tie were always involved, even after mass production in China or Philippines. Not only before, but also after the mass production.
During and after.
We
so
keep
this is the central.
keep improving.
So I then asked Mr. Kazuro Anzai, what was his favorite product that he's been involved with?
うちの人たちはそれぞれ思い入れが違うと思うんですけど、私にすると
Everyone has maybe different opinion, but he understand for him GFX100.
GFX100.
海の苦しみっていうか海のチャレンジするところがすごく多かったっていう印象があるんですね。
So it's the first 100 megapixel. So even like a number of components is different, number is so many, and then sensor is different, image quality far beyond different than before. Then they have to guarantee the quality. So that means they have to create something new from zero, from nothing, you know.
Yeah.
So no one experience.
No blueprint.
Yeah, so then they have to make that one realize. So that was the most challenging for him. So now we are displaying the photo over there that's taken by Michael Clark from US. Then when he saw the photo, that realized by the quality by photographer like you,
Yes.
so he's really amazed. So from all over the images, even near to far, everything resolved.
Yes.
It's amazing quality. So that never experienced that kind of image quality. So
Yeah.
in that sense, he also, the GFX100 is the most exciting.
So our extreme thanks to Mr. Kazuro Anzai and the rest of his team for his gracious hospitality and time at the factory in Sendai. And also huge thank you, of course, to the wonderful Mr. Hiroto Nakata for translating, and also generally for looking after Andreas and I while we were in Tokyo. And of course, the main takeaway, I think, for everybody who's listened to this trilogy of information that we've brought back from Japan is that the team, from the marketing to the senior engineers to the people that box up the products, is that they put so much pride and passion and quality control into the engineering and production and sales. They are extremely proud to be Fujifilm employees. I'm extremely proud to have had a time with them in Japan on several occasions, and I think that ultimately does not matter where the cameras are made, the quality is identical, and I think that we should all, as Fujifilm lovers, be very thankful for their time and their hospitality.
Kev, on the tour, which we just heard there for this week, back to interviews next time, I saw you wearing, and they're very strong on this, aren't they? That you have to wear a suit where you can't spread any of your Mullins germs, obviously, or dust or anything like that.
Oh yeah, it's clean room. So we had to wear, well, the best way to describe it is like forensic suits that you might see at a crime scene, head to toe. We will publish some of these pictures on the FujiCast page with this episode. I think it's probably the right time to do this. So this episode, you'll see some of those images. And yes, so head to toe, we had to wear rubber feet, and white clothes, overall clothes, and a hairnet, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and then and interestingly, this is the fun bit. You had to go through an air shower, which I thought was wonderfully fun. I wish I want to have one at home.
Air shower.
Yeah, it's probably 15 meters long, and it's like it's almost like a cattle dip, It kind of, you go in one end and you go up and down, up and down, up and down until you come at the other end.
Right.
And you rotate your body, and you're constantly being blown by very strong air, so it's blowing off all of any dust off the suit. It's great.
Blimey.
I loved it.
Yeah. Who looked best in their suit, by the way, you or Andreas?
No, Andreas, definitely. Andreas is a very smart man. He's always got, all his stuff's always ironed and stuff like that.
Did they give you some sort of Columbo suit then to wear?
Yeah, mine didn't fit, of course.
Here comes Mullins, give him whatever we've got left.
It's a bit big.
Right, back to your questions. Steve Shreve. Do you think he knows Jeff Shreve, the football commentator? We're playing. If you're listening to this on the day that it's intended to be listened to, which is a Monday, tomorrow, which is a Tuesday, England, I say we. That's this end of the microphone. We are playing your team, your end of the microphone. Which is Wales. England versus Wales World Cup.
I won't be able to watch it.
Why?
In fact, did you know that it's been 64 years since Wales have been in the World Cup? I'm just asking you that because I haven't heard it mentioned once on the news or the BBC or anything.
I think it's been mentioned more times than 1966 references for once.
Oh my God. It's making me, I'm like, we get it.
Yeah.
Get it. It's been 64 years. Anyway, so
64 years of hurt.
For the first game on last Tuesday, as it were. Last Monday, as it were. Yeah. Monday is usually my judo night, but I had a theory exam on the Saturday, which I managed to scrape through.
You passed. Well done.
I did pass, but my arm is knackered, so I haven't trained in probably about 4 weeks. So I didn't go to judo on Monday, but I took Albie to football.
Right.
And football finishes at 10 to 7.
Right.
And it's only at the Ledge Centre. So it's, it's actually about an 8-minute walk, but we always drive.
Right.
Okay. And so I grabbed him. I said, sorry, Dave, who's the fellow that runs football, a lovely bloke. I said, sorry, Dave, we're not helping tidying up. We're going to the football. He said, go, 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 go. We jumped in the car. We Starsky and hutched it around Malmesbury, got back to our car parking space, which is nowhere near our house. We legged it to the house, burst through the door just as the anthems were playing, and watched that game. But then I won't see any more because the one that was on Friday, which was Wales-Iran, of course, we're ahead of our time here, so I have no idea what the score was. I have a workshop in the studio all day. And then the Wales-England game, which, of course, in case anybody doesn't know, Wales haven't been in the World Cup since 1964. It's been 64 years. 1958.
1958.
It's been 64 years.
Yeah.
I won't be able to see either because I'm running I do a course. I run a photography course at Cirencester College in the evenings on Tuesday. So I won't be able to see that. I'm going to spend my time with 8 or 9, 60, 70, 80-year-old women, teaching them how to use their cameras.
I bet they'll all have their phones underneah the desk. They'll be looking at it and say, are you paying attention to me? Yeah, Mr. Mullins. Oh, they've scored.
I go straight from that to my guitar lesson, which is next door in the same building, but next door. So I did say to my guitar teacher, Bastian Highwalk, I said, is it all right if I bring, can we watch football next week? And as well, he was like, yeah, you do what you want.
Is that his name, Bastian Highwalk?
Yeah, he's cool.
God, that is a name, isn't it?
He's he's a very cool Canadian. He looks just like Patrick Larocque.
Does he? Oh, that is cool.
Yeah. So I probably won't see it.
Oh, right, okay. Well, in the future, should we make our score predictions? This will be. What do you think Wales? How do you think Wales performed against Iran? What do you think the score was? So now, of course, we don't know the score because it's coming up. But what do you think, Kev? What's the score going to be?
So I think England really did well against Iran. It was amazing. They were brilliant. Yeah. I think Iran will up their game a little bit, and I think Wales will have beaten Iran by maybe 2-1.
2-1. Well, it's not bad because did you know you've not been in the World Cup for 64 years?
Oh, nobody told me that before. God, that's really interesting. Yeah, I might write that down and remind myself. I don't know. What do you think England and USA would have been?
See, I think it's going to be... I think it's going to be tight. There's a few players playing their trade at high-profile European clubs now. Pulisic at Chelsea, who I'm very frightened of. So I don't know. 1-1, or maybe it'll be a scraped victory by either side. I'm wincing, Kev.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I mean, looking at Wales against America weren't good in the whole of the game, but Wales were awful in the first half. And Wales were a lot better in the second half, and America didn't really offer them too much. I think England will have comfortably won that. I'm going to go for 4-0.
4-0?
Beat USA. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go for.
We do have a large audience in America, Kev. Careful.
Well, it's the fact, isn't it? I saw an interesting stat the other day about the demographics of the countries in the World Cup. So the country with the smallest population that's actually participating in the World Cup is Qatar. Very small population, I think 2.1 million. Next smallest is Wales, 3.1 million or 2.8 million, something along those lines. And then the USA is way off at the top of the list. Is like the chart, the little bar chart they created, like went off the end of my monitor. It kept going and it just never stopped.
Do they count Merthyr Tydfil people in that number?
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
They're allowed, are they? Right. Well, let's move on. Steve Shreve says, what's the best way to clean Fujifilm? He said Fujifilm here. That's a new brand on me, Steve. Camera bodies. I hike with my X100V. You're just showing off, Steve. And between the dust and mist, it needs a touch-up, especially around the buttons and on the EVF. I use just the cotton buds, and I put a little bit of meths on them, and then I wipe very carefully around, and that seems to do it. And then little blower, which Barney loves, the dog. He joins in with that bit, and hey presto, nice clean camera.
Nice.
Is that it? I thought you were going to come up with another, because usually you say no, they do it this way. And
I've never done it, so I don't know. My camera's, I don't know. No, I mean, occasionally I'll use my sleeve to clean the viewfinder and the lens, but that's it. I don't think I've ever cleaned buttons and dials. Maybe I should. Maybe all those germs. Yeah, no, I don't. But what you said seems about right.
Steve, I think Kev actually cleans his cameras occasionally with a bit of sandpaper.
I just hold them when it's raining. I just hold them outside a little bit. It's like when it rains hard on your car. You think, yeah,
and
that's
you
good.
clean it that way.
Gets off all of the bird poo and stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I hope you don't have that on on the camera.
No, I don't know. But what you said meths, which I think is probably
a little bit of methylated spirits.
Yeah, not meths, but methylated spirits.
Yes, yeah. Let me just be very clear on that. Methylated spirits, the slightly bluey, purpley stuff that comes in the...
What's Neil doing now? He's just going off to cook up his meth. Clean his
camera. Yeah. No, not that kind. Right, one from you, Kev.
Okay, so this is from Darren Goldstein, or he says, hi, it's quite a long question. Hey, Kev. Hey, Neil. No, you remember Darren, we had him on the show. Yeah. He does all of the behind-the-scenes photos for The Boys and a lot of TV shows in Canada and stuff like that.
What a fantastic job.
I've been using Lightroom for as long as I can remember, and forever have set up my catalogs to save XMP files along with the RAW files. Yeah. This is with my thinking that any adjustments I make to the RAW can travel with the file. My clients sometimes prefer RAW files, but I always want to supply the image with a starting point of adjustment that I see fit. Recently, I've added Capture One to some of my workflow and quickly realized that since Capture One isn't an Adobe product, that opening a RAW file in either app won't produce equal results. For a while, I had switched to DNG files, thinking this would solve my problem, but this wasn't the case. So my question is, what is the best way to supply a RAW file, in brackets, with my adjustments, to a client that they can then make further adjustments to if they need to? JPEGs are baked in, and my clients sometimes ask for RAW DNG type files, and TIFFs are massive in size and don't quite work the same way as RAW files. Would love to know your thoughts. Thanks. Oh yeah, and you can plug my Instagram, he says, which everybody is more than welcome to do this. If you send us questions, please feel free to give us your website, Instas, all that kind of stuff, which is at DSG Photo.
Well, I was about to say TIFF, but he'd said that he doesn't want to do that.
Well, I'm confused by this question, I have to say, because I always assumed, and I might be wrong with this, but I assumed XMP was open format,
right.
Was not a Adobe proprietary format. So I've opened files in things like Coral software and stuff with XMPs, and adjustments have come through. I'd be really surprised if Capture One doesn't read those XMP files, but I can't be sure. However, there will always be some stuff in those XMP files that will not correlate. So, for example, there will be some sliders in Lightroom that perhaps don't exist in Capture One that might not have the same the same functionality. That kind of thing might be a case. But I honestly really thought that XMP files would work across any software that was XMP compliant would pick it up. So I might try that. I do have a copy of Capture One somewhere. I might try that and see what's happening. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't know. I mean,
it's not something either of us do.
You can't. Yeah, I can understand the dilemma, because you want to supply. They want the RAW file, but they also want a basic level of adjustment. And how can you get that to them if they don't have any editing software? Yeah, XMP was the answer, but just tell them no. They can't.
Yeah.
Or they'll have to get Lightroom or
Have
something.
a TIFF and be done with it.
Yeah, but even TIFF files, you're still going to have
Baked in, aren't they? Yeah.
maybe the other. Yeah, it depends on. You could do. I don't know. You could send them a PSD. Well, no, because then
No,
they'd
you
have
can't,
to
because then they'd have to have
yeah.
Photoshop to open a PSD. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody with longer foreheads than us, Kev, are going to answer this for us.
Hopefully.
They've heard the stuttering here and thought, I know how to do that. You do X. And when we receive it, we'll read it out.
Wait 1 second, caller. Hold there. Do XMP files work in Capture One? Capture One can read metadata in the following 4 formats: embedded EXIF, embedded IPTC-IIM, embedded XMP, and XMP sidecar file.
So
Note that only the XMP sidecar files could be updated or modified. So Capture One can read them. There we go.
Is that sorted then? Can I put a sorted stamp on that?
Yeah, let's see. There's a little bit of... I sent some images out for color correction and had the XMP files returned. I'm new to Capture One from Lightroom and would just want to just read the metadata and adjustments. I've tried syncing and loading the metadata, but I'm not seeing it applied to the images. Yeah. And the reply is, Capture One does not store image corrections in the XMP file, nor does it read Lightroom Photoshop corrections from the same. Corrections are either stored in the catalog, if using catalogs, or inside the Capture One settings 131 folder, sessions. Next answer is, no, they weren't. I sent the raw images. I'm fairly certain that Lightroom is the only application that stores adjustment files in the XMP file. This is 2 years ago, so that's on the Capture One forum. However, it does say in this post here from February 2021, Capture One can read metadata in embedded XMP and XMP sidecar files. There's a little picture of something here. Right, so there's an option. No, it's a Mac thing, and it's Capture One, so it's my eyes are kind of not really understanding anything here. But there's a setting somewhere under. You've got a picture of a person, and it says image underneath it, and there's settings in there for cache, EIP, packaging, editing, and metadata. Under metadata, there is an option that says auto sync sidecar XMP, and the default is none. Then the second option is load, and the third option is full sync. There you go. There's your answer. Go to the metadata settings in your Mac Capture One thing and choose full sync under auto sync sidecar XMP.
God, Kev, I got a nosebleed during that. I just went off and got drunk when you did that answer.
There we go. I'm actually right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to save this image. Which I know we shouldn't really do that, but it's copyrighted by some Capture One, whatever. And I'm going to actually, for the first time ever, paste it into the answer in the FujiCast Facebook group. Yeah. There we go.
Peter Foot has written in. Hello, good morning, Neil and Kev. When I was listening to the FujiCast earlier, did I hear you correctly when you said... Well, apparently I said this. Never, I think I would have done. Never, 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 never. Did I say it 4 times? Delete images off the SD card while it's in the camera. In my lifetime, on and off of photography, I've never heard this advice before, says Pete. And occasionally, I indeed have some SD card problems. So maybe this is at the root of it. So it sounds like Peter does delete as he goes along on his on the camera, which we've both said, don't ever do that. For my benefit, and I'm sure for the benefit of many others, perhaps you'll cover on a subsequent program the correct process for image management and deletion and why you gave this advice. There is a reason why you it's something to do with the directory within the file structure of the card, isn't it, Kev? Why when you start deleting images, you can open a can of horrible electronic worms.
Yeah, you can, but it's going to... So we have talked about this. You're going to be damn unlucky for something bad to happen if you delete images off the memory card in the camera. However, you're introducing that element of unluckiness. So, best practice is not to do it on the card. But I mean, I've done it in the past on, street photography workshops and various things like that. I've deleted in the camera.
Nothing's
no
happened.
problems. No. However, I was speaking to Jeremy last week, who said he did it once when he was on holiday and lost all of his images.
Yeah, and Zach Arias was another one of those professionals that said, "Don't do this because it's happened to me."
Yeah. So just don't do it, just for the sake of you don't want to introduce any element of risk. But of course, there's going to be situations where perhaps if you're traveling and stuff and you've got no space and you really want to take some more pictures, then you might not have any choice. So in theory, it should work. 99.9% of the time you'll be fine. But if you can help it, don't. Just don't do it.
What's the correct process for image management? Well, I assume really do what we do, Kev, which is take it down into some sort of software where you sort your images, and we both use Photomechanic. We're both struggling there. Photomechanic. Sort your images out, because that's a positive choose rather than a negative delete, isn't it? Choose the ones that you want, copy them across onto your folder, job done, and then you can, if you want to save them all like you do, Kev. I think you save everything onto OneDrive for a little while, don't you? And then you delete it if after 3 months or so somebody hasn't commented. Wasn't that the idea? Isn't that what you do?
Yeah. So the unedited, the RAWs that I've not done any work with, they get deleted. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it depends on whether you're a professional, whether it's just a hobby, whatever, all that kind of stuff. But yes, I mean, when you bring it, at some point, those images have to come off the memory card to your phone, your computer, whatever you're doing with them. So that's the time to delete them, I would say.
Yeah. And finally, he does say, it does, of course, beg the question, why do cameras have delete buttons? And why do manufacturers produce manuals showing you how to delete without any warning? In my experience, very good question. Well, for the very same reason that 99.9% of the time, nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to go wrong. And as Kev says, it could be quite handy if you want to free up some space on your card and you haven't been diligent enough to take out some spare cards. So that could definitely help you. And a long time ago, when we were shooting with cameras that really only ever had one card slot. I had to do that at a wedding because I'd left my card wallet at home and only had 2 cards, one in each.
Yeah, see, now I have in my glove compartment in my car is a box of memory cards.
I do now, yeah, which is a very good idea.
Yeah, the fact is, cameras can't not have the option to delete because what would happen? You just have to have that. It should work, and it more than likely will be absolutely fine. But it's up to you. Don't do it. Is my advice.
Right, if you've got a question from, I don't think it has to be a QQ, because I think we're doing okay for a bit of time. Yeah, we got time for 2 more questions. So what have we got, Kev, from FB?
Okay, so we have Sam Huntley. This is a long one as well, and I haven't read it yet. So I do apologise if these questions have been covered in previous episodes of the podcast. I am a new listener, but loving the podcast. Yada, 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 yada. As someone new to photography, I recently purchased Affinity Photo, which is my first photo editing software.
Oh, yeah.
Despite reading some literature on how to use Affinity, I'm a little bewildered by all the different adjustments and the order in which I should process an image. Is this what you refer to as a workflow? As a result, I often feel I do not know where to start. Do you have a structured process with which you edit your photos? I'm also wondering, in what situations would you make use of film simulations? How do you know what ones to use? Do you shoot in RAW and the standard Provia simulation and then apply them later using Fujifilm's X-RAW Studio, or do you shoot them in camera? I really like classic film look, but struggle to replicate the results I've seen some people be able to achieve with them. Thanks for your awesome work, Sam Huntley. So there's a lot of stuff to cover here. Workflow, generally, the terminology for workflow in my mind is the process of getting the images from your memory cards to the client. So workflow can involve, yes, the actual adjusting of the images in Lightroom or Capture One or Affinity.
Workflow starts at that very thing we were just talking about, picking the images, doesn't it? Starting with something like Photomechanic, through to your folder, through to structure, through to making a catalogue, through to and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's the whole process, everything involved in that, from kind of the print point and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. What situations would you make use of film simulation? So I'm of the kind of opinion that if you really like the film simulations in the camera, your best bet is to be shooting JPEG or JPEG plus RAW, because Lightroom and Capture One to a certain extent still do not give you an exact simulation that the Fujifilm cameras offer you. So Provia, for example, if you put Provia into your camera and you change some shadows, highlights, maybe sharpening, all that kind of stuff, it will not be exactly the same when you download that JPEG as if you were editing a RAW file in Lightroom and choose Provia from the Adobe profiles. Be very close, but it will not be exactly the same. So I these days typically shoot RAW and use my presets to edit. So that makes sense for RAW files. But in when I'm shooting my street photography and my personal work, I'm nearly always shooting JPEG plus RAW, and I typically shoot everything in black and white. So all of my JPEGs these days are black and white. I use the Acros plus R filter for everything. And it really is a case of trying not to overcomplicate things. It's absolutely fine, especially if it's just a hobby, to edit individual images differently. So you might think this one looks nice in black and white with a bit of grain. This one looks really nice in classic chrome with a little bit of punch, a little bit of clarity. This one looks nice in sepia. No. Nobody has ever said that. So that's fine. You can do what you want with your personal stuff. But if you're trying to put a body of work together, whether that's personal or professional, try and find a editing style, a look that you like. And that's the only thing that's important, that you like, not that what you like might not necessarily be what other people like, but who cares? And and stick to it. The workflow element comes into play. So I don't know, I've never used Affinity. I know it's very good, but I've never used it.
I'm hearing it mentioned more and more times, actually.
I presume you can create, built-in presets or whatever they call them, styles, if you like, which I think they're called in Capture One, and find one, build one that you like, save it. Don't include things like exposure, shadows, highlights, and stuff into your preset, because that will be different per image. But anything like the film simulation, the look, the black and white saturation, clarity, all of that kind of stuff, get that right, and then you can just at the click of one button, presumably in Affinity, just go boom. There we go.
Should we have a QQ or a longer one? What are we doing for time? Okay, we'll do this one from Bob Demers. Hello from Bob. One of my favourite shortcuts for the X-T2 is invoking the format dialog by holding down the delete button and then pressing the rear command dial.
Yeah.
Can you share your favourite shortcuts or secret manoeuvres? We've got some secret manoeuvres, Kev.
Did you know I discovered that?
You what, say?
I discovered that.
You discovered
that shortcut.
Did you?
Yeah.
Is that your shortcut?
Yeah, that was never published.
How does Bob know about it? He might have discovered that himself.
Well, this was years ago. I put it on my F16 website. So this is the quick way of getting to the delete menu, to the format menu.
Yeah.
But it was never published. And then I don't know. I can't remember. I remember I think I was in a coffee shop or something, and I pressed these buttons, and then the format thing came up, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Make a note of that. I stuck it on my F16 website, and then
what's the quickest way of doing it on the X100V, Kev?
I'm not sure you can.
I don't think you can.
They kind of disabled it. So
why? Because that's because you do have to go into the menus to invoke the format dialog on an X100.
I think that's a good thing, I have to say.
Why is that, though?
Well, you don't want to be accidentally pressing the wrong buttons. Imagine you accidentally do that.
No, but you still have
format up and press it.
Yeah, but you still have to choose to then do it.
True, but
it's a two-step process.
Hand the camera to someone else or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. I don't know is the answer. But personally, I never ever use shortcuts for my format. Ever.
Have you not? What are your favourite shortcuts?
I don't really have any. I don't use the Q menu. I don't use the My Menu. I have my function buttons set up depending on the camera.
Yep.
So on the X-T5, I will have my top function button, top right plate set to photometry, because they have removed the photometry dial from the subdials on the they did it on the X-T4. I have that set to photometry. The front function button I have set to shutter, electronic or mechanical shutter.
The one right on the front. The
one right on the front next to the lens.
That's what I do, yeah.
All of the other function buttons, such as the ones on the D-pad, the ones on the touchscreen, I disable, don't use them. They're the only two things really that I use. And like I said, I never use the Q menu. I never use the My Menu.
My menu. With the X100V, I wonder whether you do the same thing as I do with the function button. What's your function? On the top plate, the function button. What do you?
Photometry.
Oh, photometry. Okay. That's funny. I have mine set to the ND filter for that one, because I use that feature such a lot.
Yeah, no, I don't. It's photometry and shutter, all of them. That's really I get them as close as possible.
Yeah.
That's it, pretty much.
Well, thank you for your questions. Please keep sending them in. If you want to send them by email, then send them to click at fujicast.co.uk. Click at fujicast.co.uk. If you want to send them in via Facebook, Book of Face, how do we do that, Kev?
Go to Facebook, join the FujiCast Facebook group. It's a very friendly place. And there's a pin thread at the top, questions for the show. And we've got a lot actually at the minute. I've got quite a backlog.
Yeah. Well, we might have to go every week over Christmas, Kev.
Yeah. God, it's Christmas already, isn't it?
I know. We were talking about our Christmas special, but as usual, I think we're going to run out of time. Just outside the window here, Kev, this is really cute. There's a little squirrel. I kid you not, looking through the window. Look at him. Oh, he's
what colour squirrel is he?
Oh, he's grey, not a red one. It would be lovely if we had red ones round here, but unfortunately the red ones, we don't see many of them in the UK at all. You get them in the Isle of Wight and I think a few up north, or in the north. But
pretty rare.
Yeah. The grey squirrels came across, I think, from America, didn't they? And I
don't know, but one thing's for sure, he's after Barney's food.
Barney will have him.
That's why he's in your garden.
Barney will have him. Anyway, that's it for this week. Keep sending your questions in, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.